Welcome to the podcast of Terrace Consulting.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Terrace Consulting Hospitality Podcast, episode 104 of this series of interviews that I do with top personalities of the hospitality industry globally. Today I have the pleasure of having with me Adele Gutman, which probably is the person that knows most about hotel reputation and how to improve your reputation, which means that you can charge more to your customers. Okay. Good reputation means more profits. It's going to be a real pleasure to have today with us, Adele Gutman. Adele, how are you?
I'm doing great, Pablo. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be face-to-face with you this way.
Thank you. No, thanks very much. Thanks for your time. I've seen you so many times, I was saying before, on different, everyone requires some of your time to talk about reputation because, as I was saying, you're probably the top figure globally when it comes to hotel reputation. So it's a pleasure to have you and ask you a few questions, get some insights from you. But as always, start interviews asking about your background. So in your case, you have over 30 years of experience in the industry, focused on sales and marketing, from hotels, being on site, to then consulting as a I would say, you're global guru now when it comes to hospitality reputation and marketing. So how did that evolution happen from the beginning in hospitality?
Thank you. Well, you know what? I made my first sales call for a hotel in 1980, believe it or not. But before that, I danced. I was, as a teenager, I taught ballroom dancing in a Fred Astaire, and I went to the high school for performing arts. And I only mention it in Houston, by the way. I was actually in New York before, but as a teenager, we moved to Houston. And I have to say that there's something about that performance training that does really prepare you for a career in hospitality. I feel so great about hiring actors, singers, dancers for hospitality. It's a perfect fit. If you understand that your business is like a stage and your guests are your audience and you're playing the role in a way of someone who is lifting that person's spirits and providing a dream for them. Well, that really is very useful in preparing you for a successful career and great reviews. So I always look for that sparkle, that's on stage sparkle from if I'm interviewing someone, because it says to me, they're trying to lift me up. They're trying to make me feel good. And if they're not doing that for me in the interview, they're probably not really going to be doing that for our guests. So it's something I look out for, along with everything else, of course. So I started out there, but then when I went to school for hotel and restaurant management, instead of dancing, well, it's not a great way to dancing is not a great way to make a living unless you're supremely talented. So I said, I'll just do that for fun. And I went to the University of Houston, Hilton College for Hotel and Restaurant Management, because I had gone a few times to a health resort spa, destination spa. It's where the Lake Austin Resort is now, but it used to be called Bermuda Inn. And I loved being there. I loved the relaxing environment. I loved that everyone was there to enrich the lives of myself and my mom when we would go. And it was all about health and wellness and fitness and everything. And I said to my mom, I would love to work in an environment like this that's so good, that has such a positive impact on people's lives. And it would be good for my dance background. I'm going to learn about the hotel business, so perhaps I can be in the resort business of a destination spa. But then, of course, as soon as I went to school, I was, suddenly I was in just a different kind of a world, and I kind of forgot about the spa business, but I didn't know exactly what area of the business I wanted. Do I want to be at the front desk, or do I want to be at food and beverage. Nothing quite fit me perfectly. And then the dean said to me, Adele, I know exactly where you belong. And he selected me with a group of 10 people to go to the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International Convention, which was happening in Dallas, Texas for a week. And in the first part of the week, we would make sales calls with the Dallas Sheraton. And then we would attend this Hospitality Sales and Marketing Conference. And I just thought, I'm going to have an expense paid, get out of school for a week, adventure to Dallas. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. And then I asked, what's hotel sales? I'm just a teenager. Why would anybody buy a hotel from me? I really didn't understand. My mother was in real estate, so I did have a concept of selling real estate. Not promoting the hotel, not marketing the hotel. So, but I knew as soon as I went on that trip that was where I belonged. And I had the great fortune of, during that time, because I was involved with the student chapter of HSMA, going to organizing sales blitzes for the students to participate. So by the time we graduated, we had a lot of experience, and so it really made an impact on my career. Yeah, and then I started at the Adolphus in Dallas, Texas, and just after that, I was the director of sales at maybe 25, 26 years old. I was director of sales at a little independent boutique hotel. And, you know, the thing is that I learned from my time at the Adolphus how to treat every customer, every contract, every letter to the customer was just hearts and flowers. And there's nothing that we wouldn't do to make sure every need is taken care of. You know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful, gracious way, that Southern hospitality that I learned when I was in Texas really prepared me so that when I moved back to New York after a couple of years in Texas, working in Texas, and I came to work, I won't say what hotel, I came to work at a hotel, and I saw contracts that said, you will do this, you must give us the list by then. If you don't pay us by then, we're going to release this. And if you don't do this, we're going to do that. And it was just awful. And still today, I can tell you for sure that I see that contracts have a lot more rigidity and intensity and are absent. Many, not all, but many are absent of the grace and the hospitality. It isn't woven in. You can cover both the gracious hospitality and the technical legal things that you need to cover in any agreement, in your confirmations, in your pre-stay emails, in the way you answer the phone. Your grace and hospitality has to be in everything. So for me, I got it right away because of that particular background, that there was something that was missing here that could be changed, but I didn't think it was in my power to change it. It took a long time for me to really understand the impact that I could make. After all, I was the salesperson. I don't have anything to do with the operation. And it was only when I started to work, I had worked for 3 years at Swiss Hotel, and I was director of sales at the Drake Swiss Hotel, and I was director of sales Eastern Region after that with Swiss Hotel. And then I went over and I started at a family-owned Irish boutique hotel group. But it's really in 2000, I started at the Library Hotel Collection. And that was the same year that TripAdvisor was born. And so we started out in that position together in a way. And at that time, when I was hired, the owner of the hotel group said to me, Adele, if you make sure that every guest leaves the hotel happy, your job is going to be so easy, because everyone will be telling their friends, everybody will be telling their business associates, and they'll be coming back again and again. And because that was his philosophy, and there was another very smart thing he said to me. He said, Adele, I want you to think about this business as though you own it. I want you to think about it. What would you do if you were the owner in order to make sure that this business is financially successful? So don't limit yourself to these are your tasks. Just think like an owner. And because he said that to me, he unshackled me from all that I had been told in previous years, in previous jobs, where this is your job, this is your task, this is what you do every day. That's somebody else's business. But as soon as I started thinking about it in a different way, I was free to change what we did. And the first, and one very, very, very critical thing was that I was seeing that TripAdvisor was starting to make an impact. Oh, look at these reviews. People are, one hotel is on top. What makes that hotel so great? What are people saying about them? Why isn't my hotel on the top? Why is one hotel, one of our hotels rose to number 3 on TripAdvisor. Well, finally, I was looking at those reviews for some time carefully, and suddenly one of our hotels went up to the first page on TripAdvisor for New York City. So I went over to talk to Nalini Sergio. Now she's Nalini Sullivan, and I said, congratulations, wow, that's amazing that you're on the top. And she said, what's amazing is how the phones are ringing off the hook, and people will pay whatever we're charging. And if we have 15 rooms left at the end of the day, in the morning for that evening, people will just snap them up just like that, because they want to stay at one of the top hotels. They know that there must be something good happening over there. So that belief that we had already started with before social media, we already knew that was that it was true, that every guest will leave happy and they will tell their friends and they'll come back again. But now it's exploded, exponentially exploded, because they're not just telling their friends, they're telling the whole world about it. So that was really that aha moment where I said, this is free. We can smile at every guest. We can sparkle a little sunshine on their experience from the moment they call us, when they're booking the reservation, when they're walking in the door, and you're in the club room, at breakfast, at wine and cheese, the housekeeping. We're going to sparkle so much sunshine on them that everybody's going to want to write great reviews. And yeah, so that is how it started. And I mean, I could go into the process, but I know that it's just a half-hour show.
No, it's fine. Take your time. It's just, I don't want to steal too much time of yours. I mean, I'm loving it because you're leaving already so many points in there. First one is about the stage and the link between the people who are dancing and the kind of that environment, going to hotels. I've seen in so many back offices, the front office is your stage, and you have to behave like you were on a stage. But I never made the link that you were mentioning before. Like, if you're coming from with that background, it's easier for you because you understand what it means performing, which is a very, very good point. Another one you mentioned about empowerment, that message from that manager, think as an owner. If you get that empowerment, obviously it makes it much more easier. I was taking notes. That's really, really interesting. And the TripAdvisor, I want to ask you about that now. But I mean, now you are a board member, you're a podcast host, you're a consultant. So what does a day on Adele's life look like?
Oh, well, I try to write a little bit because I'm trying to work on a book. I sometimes a hotelier will call me just for one consultation to kind of get an idea. We can't figure out what we're doing wrong. You know, why are we getting so few reviews, or you know, why can we not seem to get ahead, even though we think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing? And so I really love that more than anything. I love to have that one-on-one time, helping a hotelier, which, by the way, on my website, adelegutman.com, you can actually get the first complimentary visit. So you're welcome to come to contact me there. I very often have some kind of a virtual speaking engagement, sometimes a podcast interview like you, just all kinds of different things. And then, of course, I'm always doing things for HSMA. That takes time. Last year, I was on the board of the travel industry women executives network, and so all those things take time. Definitely social media takes time, too much time if you ask me, but it's a must, because after all, I feel like I learned something so special, and I will go on to say it, you know, when we started to work on how to really excel on TripAdvisor, our idea was to get all of our New York hotels on the front page. But once we were there, which took a few years of learning, trying different things, always talking about, you know, let's make everybody happy. Let's make sure that we sparkle a little sunshine on them. Let's try to think what little things that we can do that make the difference, because many hotels may be fancier than us, but nobody has nicer, sweeter people than we do. So how can we make everyone feel cared for, appreciated, and respected at every encounter? C-A-R-E, cared for, appreciated, and respected at every encounter, so that they can't help themselves but want to do us the favor of writing a review on TripAdvisor because we did so much for them. So so we were growing and getting better and a little higher all the time. And then one day we were the #1, #2, #3, and #4 hotels in a row on TripAdvisor in the entire New York City, with all those much fancier, much more famous hotels behind us, just little boutique hotels, cozy home away from home. And it was amazing. And one of our hotels, the Casablanca, I always say about that hotel, it's not trying to be posh. It's not trying to be fancy. It's just a cozy home away from home on Times Square. But it has so much heart. And the staff is so sweet, because we encourage their sweetness. We know that they were sweet when we hired them, but we encourage them to fully express their sweetness. And when you do that, when you say, give yourself, I can't teach you how to be generous from your heart, but you know what you can do. Well, they will do things when they are given permission and the freedom from fear. And if they're constantly told that that is the guiding light, is that we're all working together to get great reviews, they will come up with the most wonderful things that give me goosebumps. I'm watching them and they give me goosebumps. They do such beautiful things for the guests. I cannot train that in a classroom. It is a culture that needs to be cultivated on a daily basis. You have to be talking morning, noon, and night about kindness, compassion, creative problem solving, and and encouragement. And when you do that, they do the most amazing things that you could never train them. And I mentioned training also because a lot of people think that it's all about these training sessions that you have periodically. But really, I think it's more effective to focus on the management team and the leadership team and teach them to infuse that constant vision and imagination of what can be and how much of a joy it is to give true hospitality, so that you're talking about it with your team morning, noon, and night, and they can't forget it. In periodic things, it can touch them, and it can ignite some passion. But it's the everyday work that you do on those pre-shift huddles and in the way you solve problems and in the way you make decisions. If the guest is always at the boardroom table, the voice of the guest is always there at that boardroom table with you while you make decisions, then you are going to see the results we had. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Not only that, but 10 years later, we were still number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 17. So we out of hundreds of hotels in New York. So, and we had, oh, you're not going to make that happen when you go to Europe. I mean, in ex-communist countries, you're not going to be able to get that kind of hospitality, and you're not there every day. How are you going to maintain that? Well, guess what? We opened the Aria Hotel in Prague. It immediately became number 1 in the city. Then it became number 1 in the country. A few years later, it became the number 1 luxury hotel in the world on TripAdvisor. I say luxury hotel because that was a classification. But a few years later, we opened the Aria Hotel in Budapest. And, oh, I forgot to tell you, in Prague, one of the front desk people said to me, "You want us to smile at guests? That's so fake." I really had to work at making them understand that your smile is a gift. And if you don't feel like that person, deserves it, breathe in and imagine that you're the traveler and that you've been saving for a beautiful trip. You've been imagining it. You've been seeing pictures on social media. You save, and for your anniversary or your honeymoon or some special birthday, you've been planning it, and you really wanted to make it great for your loved one or your family member. And then you walk in the door, and that person doesn't even welcome you with a smile. It's such a drop in your energy and your excitement about that. Imagine it's you. Imagine it's the people you love the most, and they're going to their special trip. How do you want the person on the other side when you go to America to see something you wanted to see? Welcome. We're so excited. This is such a beautiful city. We love our city so much. We love to tell people how to have great experiences here. If there's anything that you want to know, do you love art? Do you love music? Do you love theater? Whatever it is, do you love food? We're going to tell you the best things that we know about the city, and it will be our joy to make sure you have the trip you dreamed of. Imagine that. And then that culture stayed, and they're still doing great, so many years later, from that we built in. And then we opened the Aria in Budapest, and it was the number 1 hotel in the city almost immediately, within 2-3 months. Then number 1 in the country, and in 2017, it was the number 1 hotel in the world out of all the hotels on TripAdvisor in the whole world. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
And then on top of that, Review Pro said that 2 years in a row, they said that we had the highest guest satisfaction of any brand, more than, I'm going to say, Four Seasons, Mandarin Oriental, Belmont, all the brands, the Ritz-Carlton, all the brands that we know have the greatest reputation for customer satisfaction. And yet our little independent hotel company-wide, had the highest guest satisfaction. So when I say that I think we're on to something here, I think we are. I think we are.
No, absolutely. Wow, a few amazing examples. The thing is, I mean, when I speak with hotels sometimes with clients, they sometimes they try to strategize. Like, okay, let's see how we can position ourselves on TripAdvisor. But I mean, from what you're saying, they have to go back to basics. And the good reputation in TripAdvisor comes from from improved service. So if you provide that better service, guests will be more satisfied and leave those better reviews. Right?
Oh, Pablo, you're so right. And you know, one of the illusions about TripAdvisor is most hoteliers believe that you should assign your social media intern, your PR company, your night auditor, or front office manager, you know, to just sit there and write responses. That it's the writing of the responses that's the important thing. I call that the external response. That external response is not the really important part. It's important, but it is not the really important part. The really important part is that management who are able to and authorized to actually make changes in the way you do things, who are actually responsible for the process, the people, the product, and the communications, are listening to those comments. The critical comments are really a lot of what you learn from. You also learn from the positive comments, because you'll see people love the way we do this. How can we double up on that? How can we triple up on that? How can we take all the great reviews that we're getting for the hostesses that are serving the wine and cheese reception? How can we make the breakfast service get that same level of hospitality? How can we make the rooftop bar have that same level of hospitality? So you do learn from that, but people believe a lot of time, and when I make generalizations, I know that there are a lot of people who are doing the right thing, but I'm making generalizations about what the most common things that are not done optimally well. And that is that people believe that you need a PR response that says you're going to take it under, thank you so much, I'm going to take it under advisement, we really appreciate it and hope you'll stay again. That people believe that that is a good response, a polite and professional response. But polite and professional isn't what they're looking for. The majority of people are moved when you have a critical response that says, you know, there was something wrong with the bathroom and I called for help and they didn't come, and then finally I called again and then they did come, but it wasn't really fixed all the way. So there you have a lot of meat on that bone that you can pick at until you figure out exactly what the problem was. What was the problem in communication that once you got the message that the person didn't go up right away? Why did they have to call back? Can we change the process so that that communication has signals? And obviously technology can help with that, right? But only technology will only help that if the humans who are at the desk care, because they are programmed to, we've got to make sure everything gets done and handled right away, because that's if we fix everything perfectly and respond really well, that's a positive review that we can get, as opposed to a negative review we can get. And a return customer or not a return customer, that's even more important. So, and then why once somebody went up to the room and they left, why didn't somebody call and say, hey, I know you called for a repair. Was everything fixed to your satisfaction? Things like that. that you can build into your system. You can learn from the comments, but as long as you have your night auditor just simply writing, thank you for letting us know, and then moving on, that's not fixing it. People also believe that service recovery has something to do with, I'm so sorry that broke. I'm going to go up to have somebody come up to the room, and because of your inconvenience, we're leaving you a chocolate bar in the room. That's awesome. You are taking care of that person that one time. But an even better response, if you really care about making 1,000 customers for life, not just one customer for life, is saying, what went wrong with that sink? Is it happening to other sinks? Let's ask the housekeepers when they're in the rooms for the next couple of days to double check to see if anything's drippy on the sinks, and we'll make a note and make sure that maintenance knows exactly which rooms are having that problem, because a lot of times if it's a problem in one place, it could be a problem in other places. Or somebody saying something about that you found that the root cause of the noise, somebody complained about noise, you just give them a breakfast coupon. That's not fixing the problem. So then you go up to the room and you see it's have something to do with the filter or something in the room, and you change that out. Okay, but now what are you going to do to the rest of the rooms to make sure that filter problem? Do we need to replace the filters more often? Whatever it is, I'm just making up a story, but I'm giving you the idea that we're either pacifying them with a little gift, or we're just pacifying them with a few comments, or we're actually doing something to correct that one situation. And then the ultimate level is, I'm not just fixing it for you. I've asked enough questions of you to find out what the root cause of the problem is, so I can prevent it from happening to anybody else in the future. That's the sweet spot where you're going to really do fantastic. And you have to be humble when you listen, because people very often listen to criticism in a way that, if you're the general manager of the hotel, honestly, why would you want to listen to people complaining about you? You put your heart and soul into making that hotel great. You don't really like hearing that. So you just say, I'll let the team fix it. They'll ask me if I need anything. But you really ought to know what's going on in your hotel, because then you can provide the leadership to make sure that everybody is getting it done all the way, not just on the surface. Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And things that so many people get it so wrong. Could it be, because up until you said you were in that company when TripAdvisor started, like some 20 years ago, up until then, it was just only word of mouth. So one bad opinion could only spread amongst the, whoever that person knew. Now it goes everywhere. So do you think sometimes hotels or restaurants are overwhelmed by all this social media, be it TripAdvisor, Google? You have all different, Booking.com, for example, also very concerned about the rankings in there. Is it sometimes too much for them?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think a lot of businesses can open and close, or change owners or become a resident or something else. A lot of those things can happen and you don't even know what you did wrong. I think that the feedback has made the pie bigger for everyone. I think that user-generated content in general has made everything better. First of all, when we see beautiful stories on our Facebook and our Instagram and the videos and on TripAdvisor, it makes us dream about traveling, and we want to travel more. Because let's say somebody in the old days, and I know personally about things like this happening, not to me, but to friends, that a honeymoon couple goes to Hawaii to stay at a hotel, and they really saved up for it, and it was such a dream for them. And they got walked to a much lesser hotel on their honeymoon night. I mean, the honeymooners should be the VIPs of the universe. And that should never happen. But that hotel felt emboldened to put themselves in a position where they were walking guests, because it's just between them and their customer. They'll never know. Much more important for them to maximize their revenue. But now that can't happen, because you will lose so much reputation that people will see that and not feel safe to put their honeymoon with you. While on the other hand, like the average rate of the Casablanca from the days before, TripAdvisor was making an impact, to when we were working and really on top, number one on TripAdvisor, is almost 100% increase in ADR. And very often we would sit there knowing that the hotel across the street and around the corner were selling at $100 or $200 a night less than us. Remember, we're in New York, so our prices are a little different than in the rest of the country. But so if you watch, if you ask TripAdvisor, as I have, how's it been with the average score for hotels? And it used to be that they said the average score was 4.1, and then it was 4.2, and then it was 4.3. So actually we are getting better at it. Because of the hotels that are paying attention, we are getting better at it, and more people want to travel, and they expect more when they come. But isn't that good? Because when they expect more, we can charge more. And that's the truth. Because if you have a perceived value, is going to be completely different when you have 5-star reviews than when you have average of 4-star reviews. That, you know what, 4-star is, if you're getting a 4-star review, that means it's okay. It was fine. It was good. I got a bed and a shower, and it worked, and it was what it said on the tin, more or less. And so it's fine. But do you think that if a brand new hotel opens across the street from you, that 4-star reviewer is loyal to you? They are not. And that's the old story of Xerox. When they did a study and they found out that their 5-star reviewers, rebooked Xerox machines at 6 times the pace of 4-star reviewers. 4-star is just okay, and 5-star is everything you're looking for. And everything 3 stars and below is definitely a detractor. You do not want to have that, but you really don't want to have 4-star either. You just want to have 5-star reviews. And a lot of it is free. It's having energy and positivity and smiling at the guests and welcome to the hotel. What can I do for you? Oh, you're here for that. Make a connection, and listen to what their needs are, and see if there isn't something that you can do to make sure they have a great experience. And not only will the guests be happier, but your employees will be happier. How happy do you think is an employee that has to handle complaints all day long? As opposed to how happy do you think is an employee who is always being asked by the manager, hey, do you have everything you need to make guests happy? Is there anything that we need to be doing differently? Is there something that you see that's bothering guests that we can fix? And if that guest is actually showering your staff with compliments, Thank you so much. We've had such a wonderful time. Everybody here is so sweet. You guys are the best. I'm going to come back with my family. I'm going to stay for a longer time. We'll come back and take a suite when we come back for our anniversary. You know, they'll stay longer, they'll pay more, and they'll come back with all of their friends, and they'll tell the world about your hotel because you just gave a little bit extra energy to that guest and made them feel important.
It's the most important thing, obviously, to make the guest feel important. So we have location, you have the place on itself, a hotel. It can be super luxurious. You have the service. So what is the importance of each of them? I mean, to rephrase that, how important from 0 to 100, for example, percentage is the service compared to location or the property in itself to give a good impression to guests?
Well, I mean, they say location is everything, but in the old days, it used to be that you'd say, oh, I have to go, I have to go to Niagara Falls, so I have to see the falls, and I have to have the view of the falls. I mean, and that was it. It was the location first, and then you're picking the hotel. But now, because of social media, people are looking for experiences, and they're willing to go to places that they never might have considered before. If I get a picture of somebody, surrounded by gorillas or giraffe or whatever it is, or aurora borealis, I don't know what picture I'm looking at and what country it is, but I'm saying I'm going to go there and do that. And so I'm picking the experience first. And that may be an experience that is unique to that hotel, for example. So, location, obviously, if the Giraffe Manor wasn't in Nairobi, it wouldn't be the Giraffe Manor, but there are a lot of choices in Nairobi. So it isn't just about that, it's about the experience. And I think that if you look at reviews, you're going to see that a lot of times it's not the super luxury product that is getting the best reviews. You could have a Southwest Airlines being the most loved brand, or you know what I mean, which is a value brand. People love, very often tell me that they love Hampton Inn. And I always refer to this one company called Drury's, and I don't know anybody who works there. I've never stayed at one of their hotels, but I can see they have fantastic reviews, and they have a culture that is completely guest-centric and hospitality driven. And so they're crushing TripAdvisor right and left, even as a modest hotel group, because it's all about the people. So yes, of course, if you put beauty and beautiful design, and if you put thoughtful design, not just form but function, so that it's comfortable for people. If you design the experience, not just at the hotel, but in the booking engine and the website and the pre-stay and the confirmation and all of those little spots along the way, if you're sparkling sunshine into all of those things and making things faster, easier, more convenient, more options, more personalized, to give people exactly what they want and just make it easy for them, that makes a big difference. It's not just it's certainly not just the location. If you have people have a lot of choices. They don't have to go to your hotel. They can go to so many other options. They don't have to go to your city. So don't compare yourself to other hotels, even in your city. Here, where I'm in South Carolina and in Charleston, and there's the whole there's the whole coastal area of South Carolina, for example. People can go to Florida or Georgia instead of going to South Carolina if they want. So you should be open to the fact that your competition isn't necessarily exactly what you think it is. And yes, many times the older hotel on the block can get better reviews than the one across the street or the one across the street or the one across the street that's newer, just because of the people that are in it and their commitment to hospitality. So I don't know how to say it on 1 to 10, but I know that I know it's about the people.
Mm-hmm. So now linking to that point, so it's all down to people, to how they feel, how empowered they are, and the service they provide. Now, we've had during the pandemic, especially in the US, the big resignation, as it's called, lots of people leaving the hospitality industry. Is that affecting the reputation, the level of service provided to guests?
Oh, of course it is, and also I think in some places it may be taken advantage a bit because it went far too long, more long than necessary to say, oh, the pool is still closed and the breakfast is still, you know, grab and go and things like that. But I think it's really important to know who your guests are, because your guests might be expecting a luxury experience and you're charging them top dollar. You're not charging them less, but you're giving them less. They're not going to be happy about that. But for example, cleaning every day, I think most people will say, I never really needed that anyway. I don't wash the linen on my own bed at home that often. Why do I need that to happen in a hotel? For a few people, it might be important. So it's important to just know who those people are and give them the option. But really, most people don't care. A lot of people will be happy with, you know, a complimentary continental breakfast and options to add more at their own discretion, if that makes the rate more reasonable. But if you're going to, suddenly you're charging $100 more a night and lowering the benefits at the same time, that's a tough one. But I think you really need to know what your customers want. And so listening to the feedback of the reviews, and, you know, don't let it get to their reviews. Ask people how they're doing, take their temperature while they're in the hotel. Hi, how are you doing? Do you have everything you need? And if they, and that gives them an opportunity to, one, see that you actually care about them as a human, and then let you know what's missing. Of course, a lot of the distress, there's a lot of distress at the front desk because of the disappointment. The more distressed your guest is, the more distressed your staff will be. So if they're constantly handling complaints, they may leave. They may leave. But if you solve a problem when you learn about it so that it doesn't repeat itself again and again, you may not take up as much time. Their time may not be as pressed because they don't have people standing in front of them to complain about something. If you've eliminated that, then they will have an easier day. And unfortunately, we're just letting them handle the same problems again and again. Something I'm constantly talking about, that it's like Groundhog's Day. You know what, sometimes, not sometimes, very often, the problem is in the communications. And just simply by changing your pre-stay email to be more informative of what's going to happen, that they're going to be asked for authorization on their credit card, or you know, sometimes just getting the information in advance just to make it faster, but just informing them that you need the names of all the guests in the room before you come in, so that if a spouse comes in without the spouse that made the reservation, they can check in without delay. You know, and if you've thought about the problems that people can have if they are waiting, to make them comfortable, to make sure that if you can't do this, but at least you can make them really comfortable by sending them over here. Or if somebody's waiting for a table in a restaurant, sometimes, you know, the manager will say, oh, please go over here and wait, and here's some champagne for you while you're waiting, and we'll get that cleared up. It makes you feel not ignored. It makes you feel, well, sometimes things happen, but you can see that they consider my business important to them, and they're taking care of me. So you have to really think about how to decrease the stress of your guests, of your staff, by getting to the root cause of the problem and planning for how to handle those, how to not have those issues because you've communicated well. And also, if it still happens, what are you going to do? Give them the tools to solve problems. Like if somebody says, my bed is not comfortable, you know, say that you're going to put a feather bed on it when they go out, you know, looking at the tourist area. While they're out, you're gonna do something to make that bed nice and cushy for them. You know, you just have to have that tool, that toolkit of tricks to, and it may solve the problem or it may not, but at least they know that you legitimately did everything that you could to try to help.
Right, yeah, you've done your best. Absolutely. I have one more
Did I
question.
answer your question?
Go ahead.
Did I answer your question?
Really, I'm taking notes because it's really, really insightful what you're saying. I was like, the communication pre-arrival, so the guests know what to expect. The fact that, and you went straight on point there, staff has to deal all the time with the same issues again and again. And I get that from when I go train them, that they are so demotivated because it's always the same thing. And it's not in their hand to fix it. It's up to the management or maintenance, whomever, but the reception, the front desk staff are the ones, I mean, they are the face in front of the customer, and having to go to apologize on behalf of the hotel. There's nothing they can do.
Fair. It's not fair. It's not fair, Pablo. You know what? You can't. That's your team. That's your family. You have to take care of them and get them out of that trouble. And you won't have as many people walking out the door, because if you think you're short-staffed, and therefore you can lean on the half of the people who stayed twice as much, what's going to happen when even more people leave? And I know how few people even show up for appointments, much less, and sometimes even don't show up for the job when they've accepted them. And you're taking for granted your best employees because they're able to handle it. Take away the problem, you know, the underlying problem. It hurts me when general managers say that they don't have time to look at their reviews. I mean, you're investing a bit of your time will save your entire team a world of time. So if you care about keeping your team, collaborate with them to ask them what the problems are that are recurring, and let's talk about how we might avoid having that person come up to the desk to talk about something. You should have something in their toolkit in case they do, but you should really think about how to avoid them coming up to the desk in the first place, because it's already been handled on the backside. They already know.
Yeah. The aim for the front desk. One last question I was saying that I have for you. It's about, I mean, we're talking about talent and the lack of talent, and talking with schools or hospitality colleges, they see that there's been a drop in the last couple of years in terms of people going into hospitality studies. So with all your experience and your knowledge, what would be the advice, a tip for that young people deciding to study or not hospitality business? How could you attract them? What would be the tip for them?
Well, first of all, to the students, I would say something, and to the hotels, I would say something else. So to the two students, I would say it's a great time to join the team, because if you begin not the way I did, I came in from hospitality, from a university hospitality school, and I believed that this is my job, this is my little job. I need to learn how to do my little job, and that's all it is. I was a sales manager, so it wasn't that little, but I need to just focus on that one thing. But I learned that you must do that one job really, really well, and you must learn everything you can about it. But also, you have a voice, because if you're having any kind of communication with the guests, you need to make sure that that voice of the customer is heard in your company. If you go in with a mindset saying, I want to own a hotel someday, or what if somebody's going to leave, this beautiful hotel that I'm at. I'm thinking now about the Adolphus from when I was a young person. And if somebody was going to just leave me as an inheritance, the Adolphus Hotel, if I owned it, what would I do? Do I understand the way the whole operation works? Do I understand how the catering works? Am I constantly listening to, hey, front desk manager, tell me, what do you see as some friction points between sales and the front desk? What do we as salespeople really need to know about the way your operation works? Tell me more, or tell me how do you think sales, or let's say the front desk and housekeeping, should work better together? What are the little things that we can do to collaborate to make guests happy together? And just try to learn as much as you can about the entire operation, and think about it as if you're a future owner, future general manager of the hotel, because it will just change the way your problem solving creativity works, and it will help you come up with ideas. And I think that I hope that hotels are more open and becoming more open every day to hearing ideas from the staff. Somebody said to me on my podcast recently, it was Howard Tiersky, who is the writer of Winning Digital Customers. And he says, we're born with this creativity and the problem solving and the natural acceptance of change. You're always growing, always learning. And organizations tend to crush that, because we want things to, this is the way we do things, and that's the way it is. And how liberating it is if you can be the kind of an organization that instead says to your team, we're growing, we're always learning, we're always changing, and for the better. And we have this big aspiration, so we're gonna have to make a lot of little changes along the way. And I need your eyes and ears to tell us as a team where the openings and the opportunities of little micro innovations along the way. Imagine if you were constantly telling your team, oh, that's a great idea. You're a great creative problem solver. And if you have 100% of your team creative problem solvers, guess what? Your review scores are going to go like this.
Which links again to the empowerment of the staff, which has come up a few times during the conversation. And I see that missing a lot in many hotels. The fact that staff see so many layers between them, line staff and the management, and they don't see any empowerment, so they only have to act. They're not allowed to think, which is terrible. Yeah. So more empowerment.
Yes, the thing is that everybody says we're creative. We aspire to ultimate hospitality for our guests, but they don't actually know the steps to take and how to actually make it happen in real life. And so when it doesn't happen, they believe that, well, it's just so hard. But you know what? There's a method, and it's not that hard. It just takes discipline. It just takes doing it every day, just working it into your everyday, breathing in, breathing out. It's just like breathing in and breathing out. When you know the system always works.
Well, thanks so much. Another tip in there for the list. Adele Gutman, again, thank you so very much. Probably the person that knows the most about hotel reputation globally and host of the Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast, which is also on the top 30 globally.
Thank you. But I just rebranded. That was my 2021 title. No, that's perfect. I'm glad you mentioned it, because those episodes are still there to help people. And there are a lot of great conversations in that. But I launched a new one, so I'm happy to share that with you. And it's just called Get Great Guest Reviews, the podcast. So, and it's out with the first few episodes already. So I hope you'll go and subscribe.
Perfect. So get great guest reviews, a new podcast. So you still have the old episodes in there, and now with the new title, new episodes and interviews. Again, Adele, thank you so very much for your time. You've been very kind.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, Pablo. I can't wait to talk again.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website, www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.